So look at verse 4. Judas declares that he sinned by betraying Jesus to the religious leaders because Jesus is innocent. Note that. Judas confesses that Jesus is innocent. This is remarkable. The betrayer, he's described as the betrayer back in verse 3. The betrayer of Jesus is testifying that Jesus is an innocent man. The chief witness against Jesus is recanting his testimony. He says essentially, I lied. He's innocent. You know, later on, Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, will question Jesus and then declare, I find no fault in this man. He has done nothing deserving of death. The wife of Pontius Pilate will say to her husband, leave this innocent man alone. The thief on the cross next to Jesus will say to the other thief on the other side of Jesus, we deserve to die for our crimes, but this man has done nothing wrong. When Jesus dies on the cross and he gives up the ghost, the Roman centurion that is there at the foot of the cross declares, truly, this man was the Son of God. Those are some pretty powerful testimonies from quite a collection of witnesses. I mean, all of those people played a role in his crucifixion. And they all agree that Jesus is innocent. Jesus was perfect. He was a perfect man. He was without sin. That's what makes him the perfect sacrifice for our sins and for us. Consider the testimony to the innocence and perfection of Jesus in contrast to the religious leaders who are filled with corruption and immorality. Now, look at the response of the religious leaders to Judas's confession. Judas says, I've sinned by betraying innocent blood. And the religious leaders said, what is that to us? You see to it. That's your problem. These are some really compassionate shepherds, aren't they? They don't care about Judas. They don't care about anyone except themselves. They don't care that Judas is suffering under the weight of his sin. They don't care that he is burdened with remorse. They don't care that Judas is recanting his testimony against Jesus. They don't care. They just want him dead. Look at verse 5, what Judas does now. Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple, and he departed. And he went and he hanged himself. Judas takes the bag of money, the 30 pieces of silver, and he throws it into the temple. Now, if you're taking notes, the word translated threw down, it means to throw down in anger. So he doesn't do like, a gentle underhanded toss like he's playing cornhole or something like that. He takes this bag and he flings it. And it says he flings it, he throws it in anger into the temple. And the word for temple there, if you're taking notes, the word for temple refers to the building. Right? If you can picture the temple in your mind, there's the big courtyard, the courts of the temple, and in the middle is the building where was, the holy place and the holy of holies. Judas, please understand what's happening here. Judas doesn't fling it down on the ground right there in the temple courts. What Judas does is he takes the bag of money and he goes over to the building and he goes to the door of the building and he throws it into the building, into the holy place. And maybe he throws it so hard it hits the curtain in the back of the building that separates the holy place from the holy of holies. But he just flings this thing in there and he leaves and he walks out. Now, why does Judas do that? Because only the priest can enter the building. Only the priest can go in the temple building. The priest refused to take the money back and give Judas some relief from his regret, and so Judas, in anger, throws the money down into the temple building where only the priests can go. So the priests have to deal with it now. And then he left. And he went out and he hanged himself. He committed suicide. He committed suicide because of the overwhelming guilt of his sin, and he could not get any relief from the regret and from his remorse, and so he hangs himself. Listen, only Jesus can lift the guilt of sin. Only Jesus can. No one else can do that. And hanging himself did not relieve the guilt for Judas. It did not remove his misery. The remorse Judas was suffering when he hanged himself, he is still suffering to this day. Except now it's far more severe. Listen, death relieves nothing for the unbeliever. Death relieves nothing for the unbeliever. It does not relieve sin. It does not relieve regret or shame or pain. For the unbeliever, death makes it all permanent and far more severe. Because now that unbeliever is thrust into eternity where they are separated from God for all eternity, and they're cast into hell, where there is wailing and gnashing of teeth, Jesus said. So they don't escape the pain through death.